Today, we're going to crack open a military strategy guide that's about 2,500 years old to figure out the high-stakes power games of the 21st century. Yep, we're talking Sun Tzu's The Art of War, and we're going to see how its ancient wisdom is literally shaping our world right now. So let's just dive right in with Sun Tzu's most famous and, maybe his most misunderstood idea. This isn't just about trying to avoid a fight. No. It's about making the fight completely irrelevant. It's about getting yourself into such a strong strategic position that you've already won before any actual conflict even kicks off. And trust me, this is not some dusty old book that nobody reads. I mean, just look at this. For over 2,000 years, from ancient China to Napoleon's armies to Mao's revolution, and now to the top military schools and even corporate boardrooms today, this book has been the secret playbook for some of history's most powerful people. So how does it actually work? What is it about this ancient playbook that makes it so powerful, even today? Let's zoom in on the core ideas, the principles that are really the foundation of Sun Tzu's genius. Okay, so at its heart, the art of war is all about one profound idea. You win with your brain, not just your muscle. It's the ultimate mind over matter strategy. Sun Tzu's whole point is that a supposedly weaker opponent can totally beat a stronger one, not by trying to match their strength, but by outthinking them and outmaneuvering them psychologically. Sun Tzu basically boils this all down to three huge pillars of victory. First, you use deception. You fool the enemy to create an opening. Second, you get better intelligence. You find a vulnerability. And third, you exploit that weakness with absolute speed and surprise. Let's break those down. The first pillar, deception, is all about getting inside your opponent's head and shaping what they think is real. This quote says it all, right? It's about controlling their perception. If they think you're weak, they get lazy, they get arrogant. If they think you're strong over here, they might completely miss the real attack you're planning over there. And this slide really shows you how it's done. It's a masterclass in misdirection. The image you project is that you're passive, you're far away, you can't do anything. But the reality, you are totally ready, you're on the move, and you're right there, just waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. The second pillar is superior intelligence. Sun Tzu said that spies and knowing what's coming are absolutely critical. Our sources have a great way of putting this. Special forces might be the tip of the spear, right? But it's military intelligence, the rod behind the spear, that actually guides that spear to its target precisely and safely. And this quote is where it all comes together perfectly. You use your amazing intelligence to find out where they're vulnerable, and you use deception to make sure they have no idea you're coming. Victory comes from hitting their weakest spot with a knockout punch of total surprise. Okay, so let's shift gears and look at a real-world case study. We're going to explore how these ancient ideas are being used, according to our source material, in the super complex world of modern geopolitics. So the source material we're looking at here, Michael Pillsbury's book, The 100-Year Marathon, makes a really interesting argument. It suggests that China is playing a century-long game. According to this theory, the plan kicked off way back in 1949, and the ultimate goal is to replace the U.S. as the world's top superpower by 2049. Now, a core part of this alleged strategy is a concept called sha shou jian, which translates to assassin's mace. The idea comes from an old folktale about how you beat a giant. You don't try to outmuscle him. You use a secret weapon to hit his one weak spot. It's the perfect playbook for asymmetric warfare, where a smaller power uses clever, unconventional tactics to beat a much stronger one. So, where would you aim an assassin's mace? Well, according to the sources, the strategy zeroes in on three key areas where the U.S. is seen as incredibly strong, but also, weirdly, very vulnerable. Its reliance on technology, its control of space, and its massive naval power. Okay, first up, technology. The U.S. military's biggest advantage is its high-tech gear. So the goal isn't to build better gear, it's to make their gear useless. The sources talk about using things like cyber attacks or even an EMP, a pulse that can just fry electronics, to basically blind the U.S. military in an instant. Second, space. U.S. satellites are the backbone of its entire global operation. We're talking GPS, communication, spying, everything. So the strategy described involves creating weapons like ground-based lasers that can blind satellites, or even tiny parasitic satellites that could latch on and disable them, knocking out America's eyes and ears in the sky. And third, the Navy. Here, it's all about financial warfare. I mean, look at this chart. A single sea mine that costs maybe a few $1,000 could potentially take out a billion-dollar aircraft carrier. It's a strategy of using super cheap weapons to cause super expensive problems for a much bigger navy. All right, but let's zoom out here, because the story doesn't stop there. The sources we're looking at suggest that these exact same principles, asymmetry, deception, exploiting weakness, can be flipped around to create a really powerful counter-strategy. This response is called an asymmetric blunting strategy. So instead of a head-on collision, you sort of mirror their approach. You apply pressure in 3 different areas: economic, military, and political. So economically, let's say you want to counter the political power that comes from these massive infrastructure projects, like the Belt and Road Initiative. The strategy isn't to just block them. Instead, you could encourage other countries to invest as a group, demand more transparency, and basically turn a one-on-one power play into a group project, which dilutes that influence. Militarily, to deal with that naval threat we just talked about, the idea is to beat them at their own game. Instead of just building more super expensive aircraft carriers, the US could pour money into its own cheap, asymmetric weapons. Think fleets of unmanned underwater drones and super-fast missiles to create a no-man's sea, making it too dangerous for anyone to enter. And then, politically, the counter-move is to use diplomacy to weaken their influence from the inside. This means joining institutions that are led by China, not just to play along, but to keep an eye on things and, if you have to, slow them down. It's a strategy of using their own system against them. So, after going through all of this, from the ancient principles to these modern scenarios, what's the really crucial thing we should take away from all this? Well, ultimately, the art of war teaches us that real victory is an intellectual game. It's won in the planning, the strategy, the deep, deep understanding of yourself and your opponent. Like Sun Tzu says, the actual battle is just the moment you prove the victory you already secured through better thinking. It's a timeless lesson that is more important now than ever. But it also leaves us with a really provocative final question for our modern, hyper-connected world. In an age where it feels like everyone knows everything all the time, what does the ultimate deception even look like anymore?